Picture this moment. You're standing backstage, heart pounding, palms sweating, about to give the most important presentation of your career. Your mind screams, you're going to fail. Your body says, run away. And every fiber of your being tells you this is anxiety. But what if I told you that you're not actually anxious? What if everything you've been interpreting as crippling anxiety is actually your body's powerful growth mechanism, misunderstood and mislabeled? In the next few minutes, you're going to discover how to completely transform your relationship with what you've been calling anxiety. You'll learn how to harness these sensations as fuel for unprecedented personal growth, how to rewire your automatic responses, and how to step into situations that once paralyzed you with newfound confidence and clarity. This isn't about managing symptoms or coping strategies. This is about a fundamental shift in understanding that will change how you experience every challenge for the rest of your life. Before we dive deeper, if you're finding value in this audiobook and want more insightful content like this, be sure to follow and subscribe. Your support means the world to us. Now let's continue. Think about the last time you felt what you called anxiety. Maybe it was before a difficult conversation, during a period of uncertainty, or when facing a new challenge. Your heart raced, your mind spun, your stomach churned. You labeled it anxiety and immediately began fighting against it, creating a war within yourself that only amplified the experience. But what if those exact same sensations could be interpreted as excitement, readiness, or your body's natural preparation for something important? The truth is, your nervous system doesn't actually produce anxiety. It produces arousal, activation, and energy. The interpretation of these sensations as anxiety happens in your conscious mind, filtered through years of conditioning, past experiences, and societal messages. And here's the revolutionary part. You can change that interpretation instantly. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. Sarah was a brilliant entrepreneur who avoided public speaking at all costs. She would experience what she called crippling anxiety whenever she had to present her ideas. Her palms would sweat, her voice would shake, and her mind would go blank. For years, she let these sensations hold her back from opportunities that could have transformed her business. Then, something remarkable happened. During a workshop on mindset, she was introduced to the concept that anxiety and excitement produce identical physiological responses. The only difference lies in our interpretation. With this new understanding, Sarah began an experiment. The next time she had to speak, instead of thinking, "I'm so anxious," she told herself, "I'm so excited." The physical sensations were identical, but her experience transformed completely. Within months, Sarah was seeking out speaking opportunities. The same sensations she once feared became her signal that she was about to do something meaningful. Her business grew exponentially as she shared her vision with larger audiences. She hadn't eliminated the sensations, she had reframed them. This reframing process begins with understanding a crucial distinction. You are not your thoughts, and you are not your feelings. You are the consciousness that observes them. When you realize this, you gain the power to choose your relationship with any experience. This is not just philosophical musing, it's neurological reality. Brain imaging studies show that mindful observation of thoughts and feelings activates different neural circuits than identification with them. When you say, "I am anxious," your brain responds differently than when you say, "I notice anxiety-like sensations." The former activates fear circuits. The latter activates executive function and self-regulation. Consider how we've been conditioned to view discomfort. From an early age, we're taught that feeling nervous is bad, that uncertainty is dangerous, and that we should avoid situations that make us uncomfortable. This conditioning creates a feedback loop where we interpret normal human responses as threats, leading to avoidance behaviors that reinforce our fears. Research from developmental psychology shows that children who are taught to view discomfort as dangerous develop more anxiety-like patterns than those taught to see it as part of growth. One study followed 500 children over 10 years and found that those whose parents reframed challenges as opportunities developed 60% more resilience than those protected from discomfort. But growth never happens in comfort zones. Every significant achievement in human history came from someone willing to feel uncomfortable sensations and move forward anyway. The difference between those who grow and those who stagnate isn't the absence of these sensations. It's the interpretation of them. Let's explore the neuroscience behind this. Your brain operates with two primary systems, the primitive emotional brain, centered in the amygdala, and the rational prefrontal cortex. When you encounter a challenging situation, your emotional brain activates first, triggering the fight or flight response in just 12 milliseconds. This is an ancient survival mechanism designed to keep you alive. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning and reframing, activates about 250 milliseconds later. This gap explains why we often feel before we think. In modern life, however, most of our threats aren't life-threatening. They're growth opportunities disguised as challenges. A job interview isn't a tiger attack, but your primitive brain doesn't know the difference. It responds with the same activation pattern, releasing cortisol and adrenaline, which you then interpret based on your conditioning. Studies using fMRI technology show that people who practice reframing develop stronger neural connections between the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, allowing faster override of automatic fear responses. The key to mastery lies in training your prefrontal cortex to reinterpret these signals. This isn't about suppressing or fighting your natural responses. It's about working with them intelligently. When you understand that increased heart rate means more oxygen to your brain, that heightened alertness means enhanced performance capability, and that butterflies in your stomach mean your body is preparing for action, everything changes. I want you to try something right now. Think about a situation that typically makes you feel anxious. Notice the sensations in your body. Now, instead of labeling them as anxiety, simply observe them with curiosity. What do you actually feel? Increased energy, heightened awareness, a sense of aliveness? Take a moment to locate these sensations precisely. Is your heart beating in your chest, or do you feel it in your throat? Is the tension in your shoulders or your jaw? Is the energy in your stomach a tight knot or a fluttering sensation? These sensations are neutral until you assign meaning to them. The same physiological response that makes one person freeze with fear makes another person perform at their peak. The difference lies entirely in interpretation. Olympic athletes report the same physical sensations before competition as people, with performance anxiety, elevated heart rate, sweaty palms, butterflies in the stomach. Yet athletes interpret these as signs of readiness, while others interpret them as signs of impending failure. Research from sports psychology shows that this interpretive difference accounts for up to 30% of performance variation. This brings us to a powerful framework for transforming your relationship with these sensations. I call it the RISE method: recognize, interpret, shift, and engage. First, recognize the sensations without judgment. Simply notice what's happening in your body. My heart is beating faster. My breathing has changed. I feel energy in my stomach. This recognition creates space between stimulus and response. Next, interpret these sensations through a growth lens. Instead of, I'm anxious because I might fail, try, my body is preparing me to perform at my best. This isn't positive thinking, it's accurate thinking. Your body truly is preparing you for action. Then shift your internal dialogue. Replace fear-based thoughts with growth-oriented ones. This presentation will destroy me becomes this presentation will develop me. I can't handle this becomes I'm being prepared to handle this. Finally, engage with the situation fully. Use the energy your body has provided to take purposeful action. Movement transforms emotion. When you act despite the sensations, you teach your nervous system that these feelings are safe and even beneficial. Let me share another powerful example. Michael was a talented musician who developed what he called performance anxiety after a single bad experience on stage. For years he avoided performing, convinced that his anxiety would ruin any attempt. His career stagnated as he watched less talented musicians succeed simply because they were willing to perform. When Michael learned about reframing, he was skeptical but desperate enough to try. He started small, performing for friends while consciously reinterpreting his sensations as excitement. Each successful experience reinforced his new interpretation. Within a year, he was performing regularly, and his anxiety had become his pre-performance ritual that signaled he was ready to create something beautiful. The transformation wasn't instant or magical. It required consistent practice and a willingness to feel uncomfortable. But by changing his relationship with his sensations, Michael changed his entire life trajectory. This principle applies to every area of life: social situations, career challenges, relationship difficulties, financial decisions. All trigger similar physiological responses that we can choose to interpret differently. The person who sees a challenging conversation as an opportunity for connection experiences it very differently from someone who sees it as a threat to their ego. Think about elite athletes for a moment. Before a big competition, they experience the same physiological arousal as anyone else. Their hearts race, their muscles tense, their breathing changes. But they've trained themselves to interpret these sensations as readiness rather than anxiety. They know that without this activation, they couldn't perform at their peak. You can develop this same relationship with your sensations. It starts with understanding that discomfort is not your enemy. It's your growth indicator. Every time you feel those familiar sensations, you're standing at the threshold of expansion. The question is, will you retreat or advance? One of the most powerful tools for this transformation is what I call sensation surfing. Instead of fighting against uncomfortable feelings, you learn to ride them like waves. When you feel that surge of energy, instead of labeling it as anxiety and trying to suppress it, you acknowledge it and use it. Imagine you're about to have a difficult conversation with your boss about a raise. Your body activates, heart racing, palms sweating, mind spinning. Instead of thinking, "I'm too anxious to do this," you think, "My body is giving me the energy I need for this important conversation." You use that energy to speak with passion and conviction rather than letting it paralyze you. This shift requires practice, but it's available to everyone. Start with small challenges. The next time you feel nervous about making a phone call, sending an email, or speaking up in a meeting, pause and reframe. Tell yourself, "This energy means this matters to me," or "My body is preparing me to do something important." As you practice, you'll notice something remarkable. The sensations don't disappear, but your relationship with them transforms completely. What once felt like a barrier becomes a gateway. What once seemed like weakness reveals itself as strength. Let's dive deeper into the science of this transformation. Your brain is incredibly plastic, meaning it can form new neural pathways throughout your life. Every time you reframe a sensation, you're literally rewiring your brain through a process called synaptic plasticity. Neural pathways that once led to fear and avoidance begin to lead to excitement and engagement. Research shows that it takes approximately 66 days of consistent practice to form a new automatic response pattern, though individual variation ranges from 18 to 254 days. This process, known as neuroplasticity, means that your past doesn't determine your future. Just because you've always interpreted certain sensations as anxiety doesn't mean you always will. With consistent practice, you can create new automatic responses that serve your growth rather than limit it. Brain scans of people who successfully transformed their relationship with anxiety show increased gray matter density in the prefrontal cortex and decreased reactivity in the amygdala. These physical changes in brain structure demonstrate that reframing isn't just psychological, it's biological. Consider the story of James, a successful executive who avoided flying for years due to what he called severe flight anxiety. His career was limited by his unwillingness to travel, and he missed countless opportunities for both professional and personal growth. Through working with the reframing process, James began to understand that his sensations during takeoff weren't actually anxiety. They were his body's natural response to the unusual experience of leaving the ground. He learned to interpret the butterflies in his stomach as excitement about his destination rather than fear of flying. The transformation wasn't immediate, but it was profound. James started with short flights, consciously reframing his experience. Each time, within 6 months he was flying internationally for business, opening up opportunities he had never thought possible. His anxiety hadn't disappeared, his interpretation of it had changed entirely. This brings us to a crucial understanding. Growth requires discomfort. If you're not feeling some level of activation or nervousness regularly, you're probably not growing. The most successful people in any field aren't those who never feel uncomfortable. They're those who have learned to interpret discomfort as a signal that they're on the right path. Think about learning any new skill. Whether it's playing an instrument, speaking a language, or mastering a sport, the initial stages always involve discomfort. Your brain is forming new neural pathways, your body is adapting to new movements, and your ego is facing the vulnerability of being a beginner. Those who interpret this discomfort as a sign they should quit never develop mastery. Those who see it as a natural part of the learning process persist until the uncomfortable becomes comfortable, and then they seek new challenges to continue growing. This principle applies to emotional and psychological growth as well. Having difficult conversations, setting boundaries, expressing vulnerability, taking risks, all of these growth experiences trigger physiological responses that can be interpreted as anxiety or as activation. The choice is yours. Will you let these sensations stop you, or will you use them as fuel for growth? Will you see them as warnings to retreat, or as signals that you're about to expand? Let me introduce you to another powerful concept: the growth edge. Your growth. Edge is the boundary between your comfort zone and your learning zone. It's where you feel stretched but not overwhelmed, challenged but not paralyzed. This is where maximum growth occurs. When you're at your growth edge, you'll feel those familiar sensations: increased heart rate, heightened alertness, butterflies in your stomach. But now you know these aren't signs of anxiety. They're signs that you're exactly where you need to be for growth. Learning to recognize and work at your growth edge is a skill that transforms every area of life. Instead of avoiding situations that trigger these sensations, you begin to seek them out, knowing they represent opportunities for expansion. Consider Maria, a writer who dreamed of publishing her work, but was paralyzed by what she called crippling anxiety whenever she tried to submit her writing. For years, her manuscript sat in drawers, while she convinced herself she wasn't ready. When Maria learned about reframing and the growth edge concept, something shifted. She realized that the sensations she felt when hovering over the submit button weren't anxiety. They were the natural activation that comes with putting yourself out there. She started small, submitting to local publications while consciously reframing her sensations as excitement about sharing her voice. Each submission became easier, not because the sensations disappeared, but because she had changed her relationship with them. Today, Maria is a published author who still feels those sensations before every submission, but now she welcomes them as confirmation that she's continuing to grow. This transformation is available to everyone, but it requires a fundamental shift in how we view discomfort. In our comfort-obsessed culture, we've been sold the lie that feeling good all the time is the goal. But constant comfort leads to stagnation. Growth requires tension. Think about physical fitness. Muscles grow through resistance. Without the discomfort of lifting weights or pushing your cardiovascular system, there's no adaptation, no growth. The same principle applies to psychological and emotional growth. Without the discomfort of facing fears, having difficult conversations, or trying new things, there's no expansion. The key is learning to differentiate between destructive discomfort and growth discomfort. Destructive discomfort comes from genuine threats or harmful situations. Growth discomfort comes from stepping outside your comfort zone in service of expansion. Learning this distinction is crucial. Not all discomfort should be embraced. If a situation is genuinely harmful or dangerous, your sensations are appropriate, warning signals. But if the discomfort comes from growth opportunities, speaking up, taking risks, facing challenges, then reframing is appropriate. Let's explore some practical techniques for implementing this mindset shift in your daily life. The first is what I call sensation labeling. Instead of immediately labeling sensations as anxiety, practice describing them neutrally. I notice my heart beating faster instead of I'm getting anxious. This simple shift creates space for reinterpretation. Try this exercise. For 1 week, ban the word anxiety from your vocabulary. Replace it with specific physical descriptions. You'll be amazed how this changes your experience. The second technique is purpose anchoring. When you feel those familiar sensations, immediately connect them to your larger purpose. If you're nervous about a presentation, remind yourself why the presentation matters. These sensations mean I care about sharing this important information. This connects discomfort to meaning, making it easier to move forward. Create a personal mantra that links sensation to purpose. This energy helps me serve others, or this activation prepares me to make a difference. The third technique is historical evidence gathering. Reflect on times when you felt similar sensations but pushed through anyway. What happened? Often you'll find that your best performances and greatest growth came when you acted despite the discomfort. Create an evidence journal where you record every instance of acting despite discomfort and the positive outcomes that resulted. Review this journal before challenging situations to reinforce your new interpretation. Let me share the story of David, a software engineer who wanted to transition into leadership but felt overwhelmed with anxiety. Whenever he had to speak in meetings, he would prepare extensively but then freeze when it was his turn to contribute, reinforcing his belief that he wasn't leadership material. Through practicing these techniques, David began to transform his experience. He started labeling his sensations neutrally. I notice my throat tightening instead of I'm too anxious to speak. He anchored to his purpose. These sensations mean I care about contributing value to my team. And he gathered evidence. The last time I spoke despite these feelings, my ideas were well received. Over time, David not only became comfortable speaking in meetings, but began seeking out opportunities to present and lead discussions. He was promoted to team lead within a year, not because his sensations disappeared, but because he had learned to interpret them as allies rather than enemies. This brings us to an important point about identity. How you interpret your sensations is closely tied to how you see yourself. If you identify as an anxious person, you'll interpret normal activation as confirmation of that identity. If you identify as someone who grows through challenges, you'll interpret the same sensations as confirmation of growth. Identity shifts are powerful, but require consistent reinforcement. Every time you reframe sensations and act despite discomfort, you're reinforcing a new identity. You're proving to yourself that you're someone who faces challenges, embraces growth, and uses discomfort as fuel. Consider the difference between saying, I am anxious, and I am experiencing activation that I can use for growth. The first statement makes anxiety your identity. The second acknowledges the experience while maintaining agency over its interpretation. This linguistic shift might seem subtle, but it's profound. Language shapes reality. The words you use to describe your experience influence how you experience it. By changing your language, you change your experience. Let's explore another powerful framework, the discomfort growth matrix. This matrix helps you categorize experiences based on their discomfort level and growth potential. High discomfort with high growth potential represents your optimal challenge zone. High discomfort with low growth potential might indicate a situation to avoid. Low discomfort with high growth potential suggests an easy win. Low discomfort with low growth potential represents your comfort zone. Understanding this matrix helps you make strategic decisions about which discomforts to embrace. Not all discomfort is created equal. The goal is to seek out high-growth discomforts while being discerning about which challenges truly serve your development. Take Rachel, for example, a marketing professional who felt constant anxiety about networking events. Using the discomfort growth matrix, she realized that while networking events were highly uncomfortable, they also had enormous growth potential for her career. This insight helped her commit to attending despite the discomfort. But Rachel went further. She identified that certain types of networking events had higher growth potential than others. Industry conferences offered more value than casual meetups. Armed with this understanding, she focused her energy on the highest growth opportunities while giving herself permission to skip lower-value events. Within a year, Rachel had built a powerful professional network that led to new opportunities and career advancement. The discomfort hadn't disappeared, but she had learned to see it as an investment in her growth rather than something to avoid. This strategic approach to discomfort is key. It's not about seeking out discomfort for its own sake, but about recognizing which discomforts lead to meaningful growth and embracing them intentionally. Let's talk about the role of preparation in transforming your relationship with discomfort. While reframing is powerful, it's most effective when combined with solid preparation. When you're well prepared, the sensations you feel are more likely to be genuine readiness rather than unpreparedness manifesting as anxiety. Studies in performance psychology show that optimal preparation reduces anxiety-like symptoms by up to 40%. However, there's a crucial distinction between healthy preparation and excessive preparation driven by anxiety. Healthy preparation involves taking reasonable steps to be ready for a challenge. Excessive preparation is an attempt to eliminate all uncertainty, which is impossible and often counterproductive. Here's a practical guideline. Prepare until you reach the point of diminishing returns, typically when additional preparation time yields less than 10% improvement in readiness. Beyond this point, you're likely engaging in anxiety-driven over-preparation rather than productive readiness. The key is to prepare adequately and then trust in your ability to handle whatever arises. This combination of preparation and trust creates the optimal conditions for reframing sensations as readiness rather than anxiety. Consider Tom, a sales professional who used to over-prepare for client meetings to the point of exhaustion. He would create extensive scripts, anticipate every possible question, and rehearse for hours. Despite this, he still felt crippling anxiety during meetings. When Tom learned about reframing, he also adjusted his preparation strategy. He focused on understanding his client's needs and preparing key points rather than trying to script every word. This adequate but not excessive preparation, combined with reframing his sensations as excitement about helping his client, transformed his experience. Tom's close rate improved dramatically, not because he was more prepared, but because he was more present. By trusting in his preparation and reframing his sensations, he could focus on connecting with clients rather than managing his anxiety. This brings us to the concept of productive discomfort. Productive discomfort is the sweet spot where you feel challenged but not overwhelmed, stretched but not broken. It's where growth happens most efficiently. Learning to recognize and seek out productive discomfort is a skill that accelerates personal development. It requires honest self-assessment and the wisdom to know when to push and when to pause. Sometimes what feels like anxiety is actually your intuition signaling that you're not ready for a particular challenge. The key is developing the discernment to distinguish between growth discomfort and genuine warning signals. This discernment comes through experience and self-reflection. After each challenging situation, reflect on whether the discomfort led to growth or simply suffering. Over time, you'll develop a refined sense of which discomforts to embrace and which to heed as warnings. Let's explore the relationship between discomfort and creativity. Many of history's greatest innovations came from people willing to sit with discomfort long enough for breakthrough insights to emerge. The creative process inherently involves uncertainty, vulnerability, and the risk of failure, all triggers for what we typically call anxiety. But what if these sensations are actually signals that you're on the verge of creating something meaningful? What if the discomfort you feel when facing a blank page, an empty canvas, or an unsolved problem is your creative energy gathering momentum? Artists, writers, inventors, and innovators throughout history have reported feeling intense discomfort before their greatest breakthroughs. The difference is that they learn to interpret these sensations as part of the creative process rather than obstacles to it. Consider the story of Lisa, a graphic designer who struggled with what she called creative anxiety. Every time she faced a new project, she would feel overwhelmed, doubt her abilities, and procrastinate. This pattern was threatening her career until she learned about reframing. Lisa began to see her sensations differently. The butterflies in her stomach became creative energy building. The racing thoughts became my mind exploring possibilities. The urge to procrastinate became my subconscious processing ideas. With this new interpretation, Lisa learned to trust the discomfort as part of her creative process. She would acknowledge the sensations, reframe them, and then begin working. Despite them, her designs became more innovative, her process more efficient, and her confidence grew exponentially. This transformation illustrates a crucial point. What we call anxiety often masks our greatest potential. The very sensations we try to avoid might be signaling that we're about to do something extraordinary. Think about public speaking, often cited as people's greatest fear. The sensations associated with speaking to a group, increased heart rate, heightened awareness, energized body, are identical to those experienced by professional speakers. The difference lies entirely in interpretation. Professional speakers have learned to welcome these sensations as performance enhancers. They know that without this activation, their delivery would be flat and unengaging. The energy that amateurs interpret as anxiety, professionals interpret as readiness. You can develop this same relationship with any challenging situation, whether it's public speaking, difficult conversations, creative work, or taking risks. The sensations are neutral until you assign meaning to them. Let's explore the concept of anxiety alchemy, transforming what you've called anxiety into fuel for growth. This isn't about eliminating sensations, but about changing their purpose in your life. Imagine you're about to ask for a promotion. Your body activates, heart racing, palms sweating, mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. Instead of interpreting this as anxiety trying to stop you, what if you saw it as your body preparing you for an important moment? This activation means you care about the outcome. It means you're about to do something significant. The energy coursing through your body can be channeled into passionate articulation of your value. The heightened awareness can help you read the room and adjust your approach. The very sensations you've been fighting against can become your allies. This alchemical process requires practice and patience. You won't transform your relationship with these sensations overnight, but with consistent reframing and action despite discomfort, you'll develop a new automatic response. Let me share the story of Kevin, an entrepreneur who almost abandoned his business dreams because of what he called entrepreneurial anxiety. Every decision felt overwhelming, every risk paralyzed him, and every setback confirmed his fear that he wasn't cut out for business. Through learning about reframing and anxiety alchemy, Kevin began to see his sensations differently. The overwhelm became my mind processing complex information. The fear of risk became my wisdom evaluating opportunities. The reaction to setbacks became my resilience building strength. This shift didn't make entrepreneurship easy, but it made it possible. Kevin learned to trust that his sensations were part of the entrepreneurial journey rather than signs he should quit. His business thrived as he made decisions from a place of wisdom rather than fear. Now let's address a common concern. Isn't this just positive thinking? The answer is no. Reframing isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is fine. It's about accurately interpreting your body's signals based on modern understanding, rather than outdated survival programming. When you face a challenge, your body activates to help you meet it. This is a feature, not a bug. The problem isn't the activation. It's the interpretation of it as something dangerous rather than helpful. Positive thinking might say, I'm not nervous at all. Reframing says, I am activated, and this activation will help me perform. It's about working with reality rather than against it. This brings us to the importance of embodiment in transformation. Your body and mind aren't separate entities. They're parts of an integrated system. When you change your physical state, you influence your mental state and vice versa. The vagus nerve, which connects your brain to your major organs, carries 80% of its signals from body to brain, not the other way around. This means your physical state profoundly influences your mental interpretation of events. Simple practices like deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or power posing can help regulate your physiological state. But the goal isn't to eliminate activation, it's to work with it skillfully. Try this. The 4-7-8 breathing technique, inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7, exhale for 8, doesn't eliminate arousal but optimizes it for performance. Research shows this pattern increases heart rate variability, a marker of resilience and adaptability. 4. Example. Before a challenging situation, you might take deep breaths not to calm down completely, but to channel your activation productively. You might adopt a confident posture, not to pretend you're not nervous, but to align your body with your intended outcome. Studies show that holding an expansive posture for just 2 minutes increases testosterone by 20% and decreases cortisol by 25%, creating a hormonal profile associated with confidence and reduced stress. Let's explore the social dimension of reframing. Often what we call social anxiety is actually acute awareness of others' perceptions combined with the desire to connect authentically. These are valuable traits when channeled properly. Consider Emma, who avoided social gatherings because of severe social anxiety. Through reframing, she realized her sensations reflected her deep care about meaningful connection. Her heightened awareness of others' reactions, which she had interpreted as anxiety, was actually a form of empathy. Emma learned to use these sensations as superpowers rather than limitations. Her sensitivity to social cues helped her connect deeply with others. Her desire for authentic interaction led to meaningful relationships. What she had called social anxiety became social intelligence. This transformation is available in every area of life. Whatever you've been calling anxiety might be masking a strength waiting to be revealed. The key is willingness to question your interpretations and experiment with new ones. Let's talk about the role of values in transformation. When your actions align with your values, discomfort becomes meaningful rather than meaningless. The sensations you feel when acting on your values are growth signals rather than warning signs. For instance, if you value honesty, the discomfort of having a difficult conversation becomes the price of integrity rather than something to avoid. If you value growth, the discomfort of trying new things becomes evidence of progress rather than reason to retreat. Clarifying your values provides a framework for interpreting sensations. When you know what matters to you, you can more easily distinguish between growth discomfort and genuine warning signals. Take Marcus, who struggled with what he called decision anxiety. Every choice felt overwhelming, from career moves to daily decisions. Through values clarification, he identified his core values: growth, contribution, and authenticity. Now, when facing decisions, Marcus asks, does this align with my values? If yes, any discomfort becomes confirmation he's on the right path. If no, the discomfort might be a genuine warning. This framework transformed his relationship with decision-making. Let's explore the concept of comfortable discomfort. As you practice reframing, you'll develop a new relationship with sensations you once avoided. They become familiar friends rather than feared enemies. This doesn't mean the sensations disappear or that challenges become easy. It means you develop confidence in your ability to work with whatever arises. Discomfort becomes comfortable in the sense that it's expected, accepted, and even welcomed as part of growth. Think of athletes who push themselves to physical limits daily. The discomfort doesn't decrease, their relationship with it changes. They learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, knowing it's the path to excellence. You can develop this same relationship with emotional and psychological discomfort. Each time you reframe and act despite sensations, you build evidence that you can handle discomfort productively. This brings us to the importance of community in transformation. Surrounding yourself with others who understand and practice reframing accelerates your growth. When you see others interpreting sensations as growth signals, it reinforces your own practice. Consider joining or creating a group focused on growth mindset and reframing. Share experiences, celebrate victories, and support each other through challenges. The collective wisdom and encouragement of a growth-oriented community is invaluable. Let's address the role of self-compassion in this journey. Reframing isn't about being hard on yourself or denying your experience. It's about treating yourself with kindness while choosing interpretations that serve your growth. When you notice yourself falling into old patterns of interpretation, respond with curiosity rather than criticism. Interesting, I'm interpreting this as anxiety again. What else could it be? This gentle approach creates space for new possibilities. Self-compassion also means accepting that transformation takes time. You won't reframe perfectly every time, and that's okay. Each attempt, successful or not, contributes to your growth. Now let's explore the concept of sensation fluency. Just as you can become fluent in a language, you can become fluent in interpreting your body's signals. This fluency develops through consistent practice and attention. Start by becoming a student of your sensations. Notice patterns. When do they arise? How do they manifest? What triggers them? This awareness forms the foundation for skillful interpretation. As you develop fluency, you'll recognize subtle variations in sensations. What you once lumped together as anxiety reveals itself as a spectrum of experiences, each with its own message and purpose. For example, the sensation before a presentation might differ from the sensation before a difficult conversation. One might be performance energy, the other might be empathy activation. Recognizing these nuances allows for more precise reframing. Let's discuss the relationship between reframing and resilience. Each time you successfully reframe and act despite discomfort, you build psychological resilience. You prove to yourself that you can handle challenges, which increases your capacity for future challenges. This creates a positive feedback loop. As your resilience grows, you naturally begin to interpret sensations more positively. As you interpret sensations more positively, your resilience continues to grow. Consider the story of Nina, who faced significant professional setbacks. Initially, each setback triggered what she called failure anxiety, leading to paralysis and avoidance. Through reframing, she began to see setbacks as growth opportunities. Now, when facing challenges, Nina feels familiar sensations but interprets them as resilience activation. Each obstacle becomes a chance to strengthen her resilience muscle. Her career has flourished not despite setbacks, but because of how she's learned to interpret and use them. This brings us to the importance of celebration in transformation. Acknowledge and celebrate each time you successfully reframe and act despite discomfort. These victories, however small, reinforce your new neural pathways. Celebration doesn't mean the absence of discomfort. It means honoring your courage in facing it. Each celebration strengthens your identity as someone who grows through challenges rather than avoids them. Let's explore the concept of anxiety archaeology. Often, our interpretations of sensations have deep roots in past experiences. Excavating. These roots can help us understand and update our automatic responses. For instance, if you experienced criticism or failure in the past, your nervous system might interpret similar situations as threats. Understanding these connections allows you to consciously update your interpretations based on present reality rather than past conditioning. This archaeological work isn't about dwelling on the past, but about understanding how it influences present interpretations. With this understanding, you can choose new meanings that serve your growth. Consider the role of mindfulness in reframing. Mindfulness creates space between sensation and interpretation, allowing you to choose your response consciously. This space is where transformation happens. Practice observing sensations without immediately labeling them. Notice their physical qualities, location, intensity, movement. This subjective observation prevents automatic negative interpretation and creates opportunity for reframing. Mindfulness also helps you recognize that sensations are temporary. They arise, peak, and pass away. Knowing this impermanence makes them less threatening and easier to work with skillfully. Let's discuss the intersection of reframing and performance. Peak performance requires optimal activation. Not too little, not too much. What we call anxiety often represents the activation needed for excellence. The Yerkes-Dodson law in psychology demonstrates that performance follows an inverted U-curve with arousal. Too little activation leads to boredom and poor performance. Too much leads to overwhelm, but the sweet spot in between enables peak performance. Elite performers in every field have learned to calibrate their activation for optimal performance. They neither suppress their sensations nor let them overwhelm. They work with them as valuable performance enhancers. Studies of Olympic athletes reveal they aim for an arousal level of 7 to 8 out of 10 before competition. High enough for peak performance, but not so high it becomes disruptive. You can develop this same relationship with activation. Instead of trying to eliminate sensations before important moments, learn to channel them productively. The energy is there to be used, not fought against. Try this calibration exercise. Rate your activation level from 1-10 before different activities. Note which level produces your best performance. Most people find their optimal zone is between 6-8, not the calm 1-3 they typically seek. This brings us to the concept of growth gambling. Every time you face discomfort for growth, you're making a bet on yourself. You're gambling that the temporary discomfort will yield long-term benefits. Unlike casino gambling, growth gambling has favorable odds. When you consistently bet on your ability to handle challenges and grow through them, you win more often than not. Each win increases your confidence for future bets. Consider the story of Alex, who wanted to start a podcast but felt paralyzed by anxiety about putting his voice out there. He recognized this as a growth gambling opportunity. The potential upside, sharing his message, building an audience, developing confidence, far outweighed the temporary discomfort. Alex started small, recording short episodes and sharing them with friends. Each episode was a bet on himself. As positive feedback accumulated, his confidence grew. Today, his podcast reaches thousands, and he views each recording session as an opportunity rather than an ordeal. Let's explore the relationship between reframing and authenticity. Some worry that reframing means denying their true feelings. In reality, reframing allows you to express your authentic self more fully by removing fear-based limitations. When you interpret sensations as threats, you contract and hide. When you interpret them as growth signals, you expand and express. Reframing doesn't make you inauthentic. It frees you to be more authentic. Think about times when fear held you back from expressing your true thoughts, feelings, or creativity. The sensations you interpreted as anxiety were actually energy for authentic expression. Reframing liberates this energy for its intended purpose. This connects to the concept of sensation sovereignty. You have the power to choose how you interpret your internal experiences. No one else can dictate what your sensations mean. This sovereignty is both a responsibility and a freedom. Claiming your sensation. Sovereignty means taking ownership of your interpretations. Instead of accepting default negative meanings, you consciously choose meanings that serve your growth and well-being. This sovereignty extends to resisting external labels. When others project their interpretations onto your experience, you look anxious. You maintain authority over your internal reality. I'm feeling activated and ready. Let's discuss the role of humor in transformation. Finding. Humor in our misinterpretations can lighten the journey and accelerate change. When you can laugh at how you've been misreading your body's signals, you create psychological flexibility. Imagine your body as an over-enthusiastic friend trying to help. It activates to prepare you for challenges, and you interpret this as an attack. Seeing the humor in this misunderstanding makes reframing easier and more enjoyable. Humor also helps normalize the experience. Everyone misinterprets their sensations sometimes. Sharing these misinterpretations with lightness creates connection and reduces shame. Now let's explore the concept of sensation literacy. Just as literacy allows you to read and write, sensation literacy allows you to accurately interpret and respond to your body's signals. This literacy develops through 3 stages: recognition, noticing sensations; differentiation, distinguishing between types; and integration, using the information effectively. Developing sensation literacy involves learning your body's language. Different sensations carry different messages. Tension might signal preparation, butterflies might signal importance, racing thoughts might signal creative processing. Create a personal sensation dictionary. Map specific physical sensations to their most common meanings in your experience. For instance, chest tightness, caring deeply about outcome, or stomach. Flutter in a creative idea emerging. As you become more literate, you can respond more skillfully to your body's communications. Instead of a blanket anxiety interpretation, you develop nuanced understanding of what your body is trying to tell you. Advanced practitioners can distinguish between at least 15 different types of arousal, each with its own meaning and optimal response. This granularity transforms vague discomfort into specific, actionable information. This brings us to the importance of experimentation in transformation. Reframing is a hypothesis to be tested, not a belief to be accepted blindly. Approach it with scientific curiosity. Try different interpretations and observe the results. If interpreting sensations as excitement before a presentation works better than interpreting them as anxiety, you have valuable data. If one approach doesn't work, try another. This experimental mindset removes pressure and increases playfulness. You're not failing if a particular reframe doesn't work. You're gathering information to refine your approach. Let's explore the relationship between reframing and decision-making. Often what we call anxiety around decisions is actually our wisdom processing complex information. The discomfort signals that the decision matters and deserves careful consideration. Instead of interpreting decision discomfort as confusion or fear, try seeing it as your deeper intelligence at work. The tension you feel might be different, parts of yourself advocating for different options, a healthy process of internal deliberation. This reframe transforms decision-making from a source of anxiety to an opportunity for wisdom to emerge. You learn to trust the process, knowing that discomfort often precedes clarity. Consider the concept of productive procrastination. Sometimes, what looks like anxiety-driven avoidance is actually your subconscious processing information. The key is distinguishing between fearful avoidance and wise incubation. When you feel resistance to taking action, pause and inquire. Is this fear trying to keep you safe from growth, or is this wisdom asking for more processing time? Learning. This distinction helps you honor genuine incubation while pushing through unproductive avoidance. Let's discuss the role of environment in transformation. Your physical and social environment significantly influences how you interpret sensations. Creating supportive environments makes reframing easier. Physically, this might mean organizing spaces that promote calm focus rather than chaotic overwhelm. Socially, it means surrounding yourself with people who support growth-oriented interpretations rather than fear-based ones. Consider how different environments affect your interpretations. A supportive community makes it easier to see challenges as opportunities. A fear-based environment reinforces threat interpretations. Choose and create environments that support your transformation. Now let's explore the concept of sensation, stories. We all carry narratives about what our sensations mean, often inherited from family, culture, or past experiences. Examining and updating these stories is crucial for transformation. What stories do you tell about your sensations? This means I'm weak. This means I'll fail. This means I don't belong. These stories shape your experience more than the sensations themselves. Rewriting your sensation stories involves consciously choosing new narratives. This means I'm growing. This means I care. This means I'm alive and engaged. These new stories create new experiences. Let's discuss the relationship between reframing and creativity. Creative breakthroughs often emerge from states of productive tension. What we call creative anxiety might actually be the gathering of creative energy. Many artists, writers, and innovators report intense discomfort before their best work. This discomfort isn't an obstacle to creativity. It's often a precursor to it. Learning to interpret creative tension as generative rather than destructive unleashes innovation. When facing creative challenges, try reframing discomfort as creative energy building rather than creative block. This shift can transform frustration into anticipation, resistance into readiness. This brings us to the concept of embodied wisdom. Your body carries intelligence beyond conscious understanding. Sensations often communicate this deeper wisdom, guiding you toward growth and away from genuine danger. Learning to trust your embodied wisdom involves distinguishing between fear-based reactions and intuitive guidance. Fear contracts and limits. Wisdom expands and clarifies. With practice, you can recognize which is speaking. Sometimes what you've called anxiety is actually your intuition signaling misalignment with your values or truth. Instead of suppressing these sensations, learn to decode their wisdom. Let's explore the role of patience in transformation. Rewiring lifelong patterns takes time. Be patient with yourself as you learn new interpretations. Each small shift contributes to larger transformation. Patience doesn't mean passivity. It means persistent practice combined with self-compassion. Celebrate progress while accepting that setbacks are part of the journey. Remember that transformation isn't linear. You might reframe successfully one day and struggle the next. This variation is normal and doesn't negate your progress. Now, let's discuss the concept of growth edges. These are the boundaries of your current capacity, where you're stretched but not overwhelmed. Working at your growth edges optimizes development. Identifying your growth edges requires honest self-assessment. What challenges stretch you productively? What overwhelms you unproductively? The sweet spot lies between comfort and panic. As you work at your growth edges, they expand. What once seemed impossible becomes manageable. What once triggered intense sensations becomes familiar territory. This expansion is the essence of growth. Let's explore the relationship between reframing and leadership. Effective leaders must navigate uncertainty, make difficult decisions, and inspire others, all situations that trigger strong sensations. Great leaders don't eliminate these sensations. They harness them. They interpret activation as readiness for important work. They model working with discomfort productively, inspiring others to do the same. Whether leading others or simply leading yourself, reframing sensations as leadership, energy rather than anxiety, enhances your effectiveness. The same activation that could paralyze you can energize your leadership. This brings us to the concept of sensation integration. The goal isn't to eliminate or ignore sensations, but to integrate them into your wholeness. Every sensation has a place in your complete experience. Integration means accepting all parts of yourself, including the parts that feel uncomfortable. When you stop fighting against sensations and start working with them, you access their energy for growth. This integration creates inner harmony. Instead of being at war with yourself, you become a unified system working toward growth and expression. Let's discuss the role of gratitude in transformation. Being grateful for your body's activation, even when it feels uncomfortable, shifts your relationship with sensation fundamentally. Try thanking your body for preparing you for challenges. Thank you for giving me energy for this presentation. Thank you for signaling that this matters to me. Gratitude transforms resistance into appreciation. This doesn't mean forcing positivity when you feel terrible. It means recognizing that even uncomfortable sensations serve a purpose in your growth and well-being. Now let's explore the concept of sensation wisdom circles. Throughout history, communities have gathered to share wisdom and support growth. Creating or joining circles focused on reframing accelerates transformation. In these circles, members share experiences, insights, and support. Hearing others' reframing journeys normalizes the process and provides inspiration. Collective wisdom exceeds individual understanding. If formal circles aren't available, create informal ones. Share your reframing journey with trusted friends. Invite others to explore new interpretations together. Community amplifies individual transformation. Let's discuss the relationship between reframing and spiritual growth. Many spiritual traditions teach that suffering comes not from experience itself, but from our interpretation of experience. Reframing aligns with this wisdom. By changing how we interpret sensations, we reduce unnecessary suffering and open to growth. This isn't spiritual bypassing, but spiritual integration. Whatever your spiritual beliefs, reframing can deepen your practice by helping you work skillfully with the human experience of discomfort and challenge. This brings us to the concept of meta-reframing. As you develop reframing skills, you can reframe the reframing process itself. Initial struggles become evidence of learning. Temporary setbacks become opportunities for refinement. Meta-reframing creates resilience in your transformation journey. When reframing feels difficult, you can interpret this difficulty as growth rather than failure. This recursive application deepens your practice. Let's explore the role of legacy in transformation. Consider how your relationship with sensation affects not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Your transformation ripples outward. When you model working skillfully with discomfort, you give others permission to do the same. Your courage inspires courage. Your growth catalyzes growth. This legacy extends beyond your individual experience. Think about the impact on future generations. Children learn interpretation patterns by observation. By transforming your relationship with sensation, you help create a world where others can face challenges with wisdom rather than fear. Now let's discuss the concept of sensation mastery. Mastery doesn't mean controlling or eliminating sensations. It means developing such skillful relationship with them that they become allies in your growth. Masters in any field don't fight against the fundamental forces of their domain. They work with them. Sensation mastery involves similar alignment, working with your body's wisdom rather than against it. This mastery develops gradually through consistent practice. Each time you reframe successfully, you build the neural pathways of mastery. Over time, growth-oriented interpretations become automatic. Let's explore the relationship between reframing and joy. Often, what prevents full experience of joy is fear of its loss. We interpret positive sensations as anxiety about their impermanence. Reframing allows fuller embrace of joy by changing how we interpret its intensity. Instead of "this is too good to last," try "this intensity reflects how alive I am in this moment." This shift allows you to experience positive sensations fully without anxiety about their ending. Joy becomes something to surf rather than grasp. This brings us to the concept of sensation freedom. True freedom isn't the absence of sensation, but the ability to experience all sensations without being controlled by them. When you can feel intense sensations without automatically interpreting them as threats, you achieve a form of liberation. You're free to pursue growth, express authenticity, and embrace life fully. This freedom doesn't mean you never feel discomfort. It means discomfort no longer dictates your choices. You can act in alignment with your values, regardless of what sensations arise. Let's discuss the role of commitment in transformation. Lasting change requires commitment to practice, even when it feels difficult. This commitment itself can be reframed from burden to privilege. Instead of "I have to practice reframing," try "I get to rewire my relationship with sensation." This shift from obligation to opportunity energizes your practice. Commitment also means returning to practice after lapses. Everyone falls back into old patterns sometimes. Commitment isn't perfection, it's persistence. Now let's explore the concept of sensation appreciation. As you transform your relationship with sensation, you may develop genuine appreciation for experiences you once dreaded. This appreciation recognizes that sensations, even uncomfortable ones, connect you to life's vitality. They signal that you're engaged, growing, and alive. Without sensation, life would be flat and colorless. Appreciation doesn't mean enjoying all discomfort. It means valuing the role sensation plays in your full human experience. Let's discuss the relationship between reframing and contribution. Often, our greatest contributions emerge when we push through discomfort to share our gifts with the world. What if the sensations you feel before sharing your work aren't anxiety but activation for contribution? What if the discomfort of visibility is the price of impact? This reframe transforms resistance into purpose. Consider how many contributions the world has lost because people interpreted their sensations as stop signs rather than green lights. Your reframing journey isn't just personal, it affects what you bring to the world. This brings us to the concept of sensation evolution. As humanity evolves, our relationship with sensation must evolve too. Ancient interpretations served survival. Modern interpretations must serve thriving. You're part of this evolution. By transforming your relationship with sensation, you contribute to collective growth. Each person who reframes successfully makes it easier for others to do the same. This evolution doesn't deny the reality of genuine threats. It updates our interpretation system to distinguish between survival threats and growth opportunities more accurately. Let's explore the role of wonder in transformation. Approaching your sensations with wonder rather than fear opens new possibilities. I wonder what this sensation is preparing me for creates curiosity rather than dread. Wonder transforms investigation from problem-solving to discovery. Instead of trying to fix or eliminate sensations, you explore their purpose and potential. This wonder extends to the reframing process itself. Marvel at your ability to change lifelong patterns. Appreciate the plasticity of your nervous system. Let awe fuel your transformation. Now let's discuss the concept of sensation dialogue. Instead of monologuing about what sensations mean, engage in dialogue with them. Ask questions. Listen for answers. Create relationship rather than domination. This dialogue might feel strange at first, but it develops invaluable insight. Your body has wisdom to share if you're willing to listen. Sensations become messengers rather than enemies. Through dialogue, you might discover that what you called anxiety is actually excitement, readiness, or creativity gathering momentum. These discoveries transform your experience fundamentally. Let's explore the relationship between reframing and time. Often, anxiety relates to future projection or past regret. Reframing helps you interpret present sensations accurately, rather than through temporal distortion. When you feel activation, ask, is this about right now, or am I projecting? Often, sensations reflect present readiness rather than future threat. This recognition brings you into the moment where growth happens. Similarly, sensations triggered by past memories can be reframed as opportunities for healing rather than re-traumatization. The activation provides energy for integration rather than avoidance. This brings us to the concept of sensation calibration. Like any instrument, your sensation interpretation system needs regular calibration to maintain accuracy. Calibration involves checking your interpretations against reality. Did that presentation actually go badly, or did your sensations mislead you? Were you truly in danger, or was your system overreacting? Regular calibration refines your interpretation accuracy. You learn which sensations genuinely signal threat and which signal growth opportunity. This discrimination enhances your effectiveness in all areas. Let's discuss the role of gentleness in transformation. While reframing requires effort, it also requires gentleness. Forcing new interpretations creates resistance. Inviting them creates openness. Approach yourself with the gentleness you'd offer a friend learning something new. Celebrate small victories. Accept temporary setbacks. Trust the process of gradual transformation. This gentleness extends to your sensations themselves. Instead of harsh judgment, I shouldn't feel this way, and offer understanding. This sensation is trying to help me in its own way. Now let's explore the concept of sensation ecology. Your internal experience is an ecosystem where different elements interact dynamically. Understanding these interactions helps you work with the whole system. In this ecology, Sensations, thoughts, emotions, and behaviors influence each other. Changing interpretation of sensations ripples through the entire system. One shift creates multiple changes. Respecting this ecology means working holistically. Reframing sensations while neglecting other elements limits effectiveness. Consider how changes in one area affect the whole. Let's discuss the relationship between reframing and courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but action despite fear. Reframing doesn't eliminate the need for courage, but channels it more effectively. When you interpret sensations as growth signals rather than threats, courage becomes easier to access. You're not fighting against yourself, but working with yourself toward expansion. This alignment amplifies courage. The energy you once used to battle sensations now fuels forward movement. Courage becomes natural expression rather than forced effort. This brings us to the concept of sensation artistry. Like any art, working with sensations requires both skill and creativity. You become an artist of interpretation, crafting meaning that serves growth. This artistry involves nuance and subtlety. Not all discomfort means the same thing. Not all activation serves the same purpose. Developing discernment is part of the art. As with any art, your style evolves through practice. Your unique way of working with sensations emerges. Trust your developing artistry while remaining open to learning. Let's explore the role of trust in transformation. Reframing requires trusting that your body's activation serves a purpose, even when it feels uncomfortable. This trust develops through experience. Start with small acts of trust. Reframe minor discomforts and observe the results. As positive experiences accumulate, trust grows. Eventually, you can trust even intense sensations as allies. This trust extends to the transformation process itself. Trust that consistent practice yields results, even when progress feels slow. Trust that setbacks are part of growth rather than evidence of failure. Now let's discuss the concept of sensation resonance. As you transform your relationship with sensation, you create resonance that affects others. Your calm in the face of challenge helps others find calm. This resonance operates subtly but powerfully. When you interpret sensations as growth opportunities, others sense this possibility. Your transformation catalyzes transformation in your environment. Consider how this resonance affects relationships, work environments, and communities. By changing your internal experience, you contribute to collective shift. Let's explore the relationship between reframing and authenticity. Some fear that reframing means denying their true experience. In reality, it reveals deeper truth beneath conditioned interpretations. Authenticity involves honesty about sensations, while choosing interpretations that serve growth. You acknowledge discomfort while questioning whether it means what you've assumed. This deeper authenticity allows fuller expression. When you're not limited by fear-based interpretations, you can share your gifts more freely. Reframing enables, rather than inhibits, authenticity. This brings us to the concept of sensation sovereignty. You have ultimate authority over what your sensations mean. External circumstances trigger sensations, but you choose their significance. Claiming this sovereignty transforms victimhood into agency. Instead of being at the mercy of your sensations, you become their interpreter and director. This sovereignty requires responsibility. With the power to choose meaning comes accountability for those choices. Use this power wisely, in service of growth and contribution. Let's discuss the role of playfulness in transformation. Approaching reframing with playfulness lightens the process and increases experimentation. What if working with sensations could be fun? Try gamifying your practice. Award yourself points for successful reframes. Create challenges. Can I find 3 different interpretations for this sensation? Playfulness reduces pressure and increases engagement. This playful approach doesn't diminish the importance of transformation. It makes the journey more enjoyable and sustainable. Play is a powerful vehicle for learning and growth. Now, let's explore the concept of sensation integration. The goal isn't to eliminate or transcend sensations, but to integrate them into your wholeness. Every sensation has a place in your complete experience. Integration means accepting all aspects of yourself, including the parts that feel uncomfortable. When you stop fighting against sensations and start working with them, you access their energy for growth. This integration creates inner harmony. Instead of being at war with yourself, different parts work together toward expansion and expression. Let's discuss the relationship between reframing and wisdom. Often, what we call anxiety is actually wisdom processing complexity. The discomfort signals that something important requires attention. Instead of interpreting this processing as anxiety, recognize it as intelligence at work. Your system is gathering information, weighing options, and preparing for optimal action. This reframe transforms confusion into clarity and process. You learn to trust the discomfort of not knowing as a precursor to knowing. Wisdom often emerges through productive tension. This brings us to the concept of sensation stewardship. As steward of your internal experience, you care for your sensations rather than fighting them. This care includes accurate interpretation. Good stewardship involves understanding what your sensations need. Do they need expression, integration, reinterpretation? Responding appropriately honors their purpose. This stewardship extends to your entire system. By caring for your sensations wisely, you support your overall well-being and growth. As we conclude this exploration, remember that transforming your relationship with sensation is a journey, not a destination. Each day brings new opportunities to practice reframing and growth. You now have tools to recognize sensations as allies rather than enemies, to interpret activation as readiness rather than anxiety, and to use discomfort as fuel for expansion rather than reasons for retreat. The path forward involves consistent practice, gentle persistence, and trust in your capacity for transformation. Every time you choose growth-oriented interpretation over fear-based reaction, you strengthen new neural pathways and expand your possibilities. Remember, you're not anxious. You're activated for growth. You're not fearful. You're energized for expansion. You're not limited by your sensations. You're empowered by them when you understand their true purpose. Your journey of transformation ripples outward, affecting everyone you encounter. By changing your relationship with sensation, you contribute to collective evolution toward greater wisdom, courage, and authenticity. The invitation now is to take everything you've learned and apply it in your daily life. Start small, practice consistently, and watch as your world transforms from the inside out. The sensations you once feared become the very fuel for your greatest growth and contribution. Welcome to your new relationship with sensation. Welcome to your expanded possibility. Welcome to the life that awaits when you master your mindset and grow as yourself.